All right. It is the 30th of January, 2025. We're closing out the first month of the year. A major hard fork happened last night. Plowman hard fork. We have a new level of governance on what I've heard people calling the world's largest DAO, and here we are in our little village. That's one small part of this global ecosystem. We get together here at Gimbalabs for open spaces on Thursdays at 14:30 UTC, where we spend 90 minutes talking about what we're working on and what we're going to do next. The way we structure the conversations is by looking at our portfolio of projects. And I shared the link in the chat, and now I'm sharing it here on the screen. This is a Notion board with a list of projects. I'll zoom in a little bit, go like this, there. And what you can see here is that there are a couple of different categories. We have some new proposals for work that we might pick up. We have things we're planning on doing. We have a backlog of things that maybe we'd love to do, but they're not yet priorities. We always spend time on these Thursdays looking at different proposals for review and when they're ready for consent. And then once work is consented to, it's in progress. And here's a list of things that we have going on right now. Now, there's two ways that projects get into this in progress list so far. One is we have Catalyst projects that are approved. And so those have to be in progress because there's work to do and there's funding to do it. The other way that projects get into this list is after we consent on them in this space. There's a little bit of a connection between these. For example, the sustain and maintain Gimbalabs proposal is a pretty big pool of funds, 100,000 ADA, that we write smaller proposals to break it up on how to use it. So what we usually do on the last Thursday of each month is we review the projects that are currently in progress. I wanted to start with a quick opportunity to do that. I know, for example, the proposal approved last week. Well, this happened. Steve went to DREP debate. So maybe we can spend time getting some stories and some feedback and ideas and next steps from Steve on this one. And in a similar way, anybody here who might have an update on these other projects can provide an update if you want to. And so what I was thinking we could do to start off today is give anybody a chance, if you are the owner of a project, to share any updates or blockers that you have, if there's help that you need, that kind of thing. And then after we allow owners a chance to give updates on projects, we can open it up to Q&A. So if anybody has questions about any of these projects, you'll get a chance to ask those. We'll make it optional. Obviously, not all of the project owners are here. And for other projects, there might not be much to say. Like, for example, I don't really have anything to say about the Notion Plus accounts. That's just happening, right? So I'm not going to give an update on that one. So I'm just going to open up the floor to start. Anybody who's an owner of one of these projects want to give an update? Harsha, what do you say?
So for the Fund 12 sustain and maintain, it's almost done. I just finished the closeout report, but there are a couple of sections that ask for key learnings and reflections and stuff like that. So I was hoping we could give those out as a community instead of just me speaking for everyone. Specifically because the closeout report and closeout video are more visible than the rest of the milestones. So I thought it could also be something that uh, we could use as an advertising for Gimbal Labs itself in the town hall. Um, yeah, the first time I heard about Gimbal Labs, that was in the town hall, and it was a really motivating talk. It was Fund 3 closeout report or something. So I was hoping we wouldn't miss that opportunity and me just like presenting it. I mean, I can present it and get the money, but if just getting the money is the objective, I can totally do it.
Can we do the last 5 minutes of this meeting and just bang that out together?
Yep, sounds good. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So yeah, if anybody, it'll be really fun. We'll just do Brady Bunch style, have everybody on screen, and we'll record that, and everybody can just chime in. Harsha, can you have like a few prompts for us? We'll come back around to you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
If
Yes.
you have it open, just yeah, a couple questions that you can give to like get people started, and then we'll just make 5 minutes just talking about what we achieved here.
Yeah, yeah. I'll set that up. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thanks. Martin, updates.
Um, yeah, Dandelion progressing. I think we're going to mainly discuss, we have done the introduction last week, mainly discuss milestone two, onboarding DNOs. So everybody who is interested tomorrow, 1400 UTC, same Jitsi link as before. Yeah, maybe, I don't know if it's in Discord on the events, also in Gimbalabs, but it is in Game Changer, so
Let me
look
add
for
it.
it. I think it's also on the Notion page. So
I'm just going to add an event while we're thinking about it right here. Um, create.
I'm going to FOSDEM actually in Brussels. It's an open source convention, and meeting the original OG of Dandelion, Roberto there. So
Hey,
All
excellent.
that
right.
is cool.
Good.
It's
Oh
uh,
man.
it's the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, presentations about open source stuff, sponsored by Google, Red Hat. So that's very interesting. Maybe if you're around, you can meet us there. Would be cool. Um, yeah, Nelson is going to hopefully present about UTXO RPC, which Endamio uses. I'm very interested in how that's used and progressing, and maybe integrated in Andamio. It connects to a lot of the tools from, I think, Blink Labs and TXPipe, which is also very cool stuff. So I think Dandelion has to keep up with all the new things coming out as well. So yeah, I will look forward to integrating and looking at possibilities.
Is Nelson attending that event?
I asked him and he said yes. So I
Amazing.
I
Oh
do
man.
think he will be there, but I
Oh,
can't.
that's great news.
I don't know. I expect him to be there, so that will be great. But I also heard from Max. He is Max from Rossum is from Ada Moments.
Mhm.
He needs to store NFTs and looking for solutions. And you know,
Oh, I know Max. Yeah. Okay.
he
What's
was maybe
our
also coming to FOSDEM. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
what's the start time of the Dandelion node operators meeting? Sorry.
it's 1400 UTC.
1400. There we go. And it goes for how long?
1 hour, I
All
think,
of an hour. Okay. And this
but
repeats weekly on.
not going to be very strict, I think, on the
Yeah. All right.
time.
That's created. That should be visible in the Discord now.
Great.
Cool, cool.
Thanks.
That's exciting stuff. Newman, updates on your side.
Yeah, let's I would love to share an update on the cool and fun things that are happening at the Asteria front end with T3 app framework and mesh. Um, the gang, you included, me, Harsha, Andrew, Emmanuel, and James are working hard on doing the very first phase, which is sort of collecting research and getting things ready to dive into rebuilding or refactoring using a different tech stack, the Stereo project from TX Pipe. Um, I think it's going along pretty good. I can ask Harsha if there's any blockers. The one thing that I really want them to play a game with us. And we've sort of, that's on our little checklist of like, hey, we need to play the game in order to get a sense of it and etc. Um, that's the one blocker that I'm seeing, but it's still within parameters. I don't think we're off track or anything. Harsha, do you have an update from your angle, or if I think maybe Andrew's here. I don't know if Emmanuel's here.
Yeah. So what we are trying to do is trying to like create an instance of the contracts in Asteria and then play on our local instances as opposed to playing on the main game that they created.
That makes sense. Just getting the contracts to work, locally.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Any other blockers or updates from your side?
No other blockers as such, no.
Okay. Cool. James,
Yeah,
anything
thanks, guys.
to share with the whole gang on the Asteria front end?
That's just been a really wonderful experience so far. And it was really natural in the Aiken PBL session. We're almost done going through the first pass of the content in the live sessions. And so just like in the past with Plutus PBL, where we get through, whatever it is, 10 weeks it takes to go through the course itself. I always look forward to being done with that because that's where the fun really starts, right? Then you can start having these open conversations. And we started to drift into that a couple days ago on Tuesday when we last had the Aiken PBL live coding. Harsha and I just started reading through some of those validators as more people were showing up. And it feels really good, yeah, to be seeing those connections and to see the connections between the Aiken course and this Asteria project. I think there's a lot of cool opportunities starting to open up.
Yeah. And that is wonderful when I saw that you all discussed the Aiken stuff, because I was like, well, maybe I'll just skip Aiken because it's early. I got all this stuff to go on, and then I saw that you were talking Asteria. I was like, oh, so I've got it on my queue to listen in. I will say this to folks listening, because we are working and open pretty good in the Discord channel. So just pop on by the Asteria project thread. And just say hello. You can read through and just see what we're up to. So I invite you all to be there and just drop a hello if you like. Yeah, I feel like that's a good update.
Yeah, thank you. Adjacent to that one, actually right here, adjacent in the chart, is the PPBL maintainers work. That work is just I think it's blowing away expectations. Andrew and Monique are here. Lawrence and Caesar, it's a little early for them. They got other things going on. But the four maintainers have really jumped in and are running as an autonomous team, which I think is the highest level of success for that project. So good outcomes happening, great work happening. Monique, Andrew, anything you'd want to share about that?
Yeah, I'll try and go without waffling on. No, it's going really well. We've sort of we've sort of we've just sort of fused into a working team. We've got Lawrence is really good at the project management. Monique is on QA, and then we're actually using Notion to its fullest degree because all the tasks that we're undertaking are all listed at the bottom. There you go. So we're just pulling tasks over and working on them. Me and Caesar are doing a lot of the text updates, course updates. I'm even recording some videos this week. No, so it's just ticking along really nicely. And then we're meeting every Tuesday night. Well, it's a Tuesday night for me, sorry. As I'm in Europe, and then we're just going through everything and any blockers, and it's working really well. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, so great progress there. Really exciting to see.
I just gotta say real quick, it has been so impressive to me, the maintainers Discord channel. I mean, they just throw up the issues and then they just knock them out. And I'm really And it's really, I don't know, it's impressive. I'm really, it's inspiring, actually, I guess is the word, because I appreciate all four of you so much. So thank you.
Martin mentioned Roberto a few minutes ago, another co-founder of Gimbalabs. And he started Dandelion. And the way he always described his vision for Dandelion is he wanted gardeners just tending all over the world, like being able to run this stuff. And it really it feels like that at Gimbalabs right now. There's a bunch of different gardens being tended and we all get to kind of like see like, oh, there's really cool stuff happening over there. I can admire that for a little while, but it's a really nice thing. Like similar, like the current dandelion work, the current asteria work. These are the models that I think we can start, tending in other places. I think that's really the opportunity. So yeah, thanks to everybody. Steve, do you want to share a little update from the weekend?
Um, yeah, little is hard to say. I had a great time. It was there were four people there that had been at the Texas Constitution workshop that we went to, and at the DREP workshop that I went to last February. And that was a man named Jose, who goes by HD5000 on Twitter and on Discord, wherever he is, and Adam Rush and Jenny Brito. And there was a moment where the four of us were just kind of standing there, and we were like, it's just like we really know each other, and it was really impressive, that just this one little short moment, and in that, there was a depth to the conversations that only comes from familiarity and real time in person, and it was really interesting. Um, Friday night there was a get together at some pizza joint that was open for public business also, and so there was no place to stand except outside, and it was friggin' cold in Fort Myers, and the wind was blowing in off this water, and so it kind of broke up earlier than I would have thought, and we ended up there was a group of six of us. Quasar was with us, and it was me and Quasar and Jenny and Jose, Adam, and Sam Leathers. And that conversation rocked. Sam opened up and really told us a lot of things that, for myself, I haven't heard much about how things, go at input output. And so it was really fascinating. It's not like I can share a lot of details. This phrase goes around at these events now called friend DA. Like I can talk, but only because I know you, but I can't let this, be public. And it was some really fascinating stuff. The event itself was hosted by Culla, who's the Intersect North American Hub leader. And I've never really understood what that meant, but he kind of got the funding for it, and Lloyd Duhan's team, his Good Morning Cardano team, were there in force. And I had the feeling it was the first event for most of them. They were all young people. But he had like five people there. There was five cameras. They were on the computers. They were monitoring sound, and it was very professional looking. Sam started the day with a history of how the protocol came to be, which was also very interesting. And that was followed by Lloyd having a so-called fireside chat with Tamara Hassan, who came in like a few minutes before and left immediately afterwards. And then we had two community member spotlight sessions where Logan from Clarity DAO spoke about what he's doing for 20, 30 minutes. And then Wes and Rand from the Rare Evo team spoke about their participation and plan for the brand new marketing and events committee. And that was interesting on so many levels that it's kind of hard to describe because um, there's some stress around that because it seems to have just sidestepped the marketing working group. And of course, those guys who have been sitting in those meetings for months are disturbed by that. But like these guys are from Ohio. They're good old guys. I mean, just, they had their families there, like one of them's got a young baby and toddler, and they're really nice guys. So, everything's great. The DREP debate was because there was no topic, I was very leery about just signing up for a debate about an unknown topic. I didn't know, like I had no idea what the plan was, but there were two 30-minute sessions. And in the first session, it was help me out, Q. It was three people taking questions from Jenny and Adam. And then there was another 30-minute sessions, and it was Jose, one of these people I've been with 3 times now, the Crypto Crow from YouTube, and I can't remember, but that one,
Ken Ladd
Kinlad,
was
yes,
there.
Kinlad, yes,
Yeah,
right,
that
Kinlad.
was good.
Kinlad, yeah, that was a real pleasure. I actually got to spend quite a bit of time one-on-one with them, and I really like this guy. The Crypto Crow, if you ever watched his YouTube channel, any of his releases, it is that is exactly who he is. That is exactly who he is. And that is exactly who he was in the debate. And that was when I wanted to be up there. Because there were just some things I felt like needed a response that he was not given. But that's just the way it goes. There was a dinner that night. And not really a dinner, it was a kind of an outdoor setting. It had warmed up, and food was provided. And I can't count the hours that I spent in a conversation with Jenny, just one-on-one with Jenny, over 3 days. The group conversation, like I said, I just can't emphasize the importance of these conversations so much. Just to like an understanding on a really deeper, more intimate level, and getting kind of like clarity about how some of these processes have happened. And these conversations happen because I've just been here that long, and you know I've always been it's always been a question for me why Jenny likes me as much as she does. And that became really clear Saturday night. It truly is. James, you know how I've said, like when I decided to come into the community, I decided to come in and just be myself and say things I don't hear anybody else saying, or ask questions don't hear anybody else asking. And that's basically what she's been doing since 2019. And that was like, when she explained that to me, I was like, okay, I get it. Thank you. I'm so glad you finally said this to me, because it has been a real question for me why she liked me that much. But she sees herself in me, and now I do too. So that's cool. That's cool. And here's what I really want to talk to you all about. There are ideas, and well, let me say, there are things that disturb everybody in the community, except the people who are in particular positions, right? I've spent more time in the last 2 weeks talking to Mercy than I have in the last year and a half. It is, there's a, I don't mean this in a critical way. If anybody's watching this video, I understand it as a natural consequence as the way this large ecosystem gets itself to the point to be self-governed. And yet it is nonetheless disturbing to hear the leadership involved with the budget and these governance actions say, yeah, we're confident about this because we've spoken to the D-reps, right? Well, they haven't called anybody at Gimbalabs, and they haven't called anybody at any other D-rep with a small delegation. They are literally meaning they've talked to the top 10 D-reps, and that's what gives them the encouragements to go forward. So for all of us who came in here for the idealistic reasons, this is disturbing. And there are multiple conversations going on out there, but also very intensely for me in the last week and a half or so about what can we do to mitigate that, work around that. And this gets back to, my feeling the whole weekend was I'm just being myself here. And I know that those of you who know me appreciate that I can just do that, but I don't know how far to say that I'm speaking for the Gimbalabs DREP. And that's a conversation that we as a Gimbalabs community have not really put much time or conversation into. And so like this is doing this kind of thing and getting involved in these kinds of conversations and even kind of working on preliminary stages of planning some activities in my own interests because I think that some things should happen. I have to know what are those lines, like Steve's from Gimbalabs, da 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 da. I don't decide anything for y'all. Right? I really don't. And I don't want to be put in that position. And if you were to say, no, Steve, we want you to do whatever you want to do, and we're okay using the Gimbalabs, I would say, like, you got to be fucking careful about that. Right? And so I think that there are some things that are going on that I really want to talk to y'all about. But before I talk to y'all about that, I want to talk to y'all about that, myself in this position in relationship to the rest of Gimbalabs. And so I'd really appreciate that conversation.
I love that. And my question is, where does that conversation start? So like what are like the top, what are three things that if you had full reign, you'd want to say in a venue like that and have it be said on behalf of Gimbalabs?
Well, in the event itself, I mean, there wasn't any space for really any open dialogue. I could have gotten up if I'd have signed up for that debate interlude. I'm based on our DREP statement of objectives and motivations and all that stuff. I speak from that anyway, right? Pushing power to the edges, decentralization, all that stuff. That's why I've been hanging around Gimbalabs these years, you know. Um, there've been conversations about forming a how to form a collaboration with other DREPs around the world that have small delegation, in terms of like what we can do to do things in spite of this heavily weighted structure that we have at Intersect right now. I have, and driving, as many hours as I drove this past weekend, I've had a lot of thoughts, and I have fleshed them out fairly extensively for my standards. And they were in large part inspired by the film that Nadia Hopkins and her husband produced from the convention. Just some of the content there was, well, I think, representative of how I feel marketing should happen. And this type of content, that what they produced, I think is what people in the Southern Hemisphere need to have available. I think it's what we need to have available in Europe and North America for this oncoming rush of what is being called new ADA, that is people who are buying for the first time into the Cardano ecosystem. And, I think that this type of content is clarifying on many levels, to make people feel good about their investment in ADA and why they should hold it, why they should keep it. And I don't see from Intersect the ability to focus coherently on marketing, right? They think shiny objects, they think enterprise and institutions, and Wes and Rand are clearly competent guys that I really liked. I mean, I got to talk with both of them. These are really nice guys. But what they really know how to do is throw on events and promote events. I don't think that they know how to market us and what we do. I don't believe that. So, and I don't see any significant conversation. And I've talked to as many people as I've talked to in the last week. I don't see that happening. And it's a very, 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 and I want to emphasize, very strange thing that not one person in all of this, Emergo, CF, IO, Intersect, not one person has come up with a fucking decent marketing plan, right? And in my lifetime, there are examples of how to do that, how to move people through marketing. I was watching the Super Bowl when Apple's 1984 commercial came on, and it was like a bomb went off in my house and in the rest of the United States, right? Because everybody realized something had changed. And, whether it's by planning or just the result of listening to people, what Nadia and Derek came up with basically provided the same thing that Apple did. And that was cheap and easy. And so this is where my mind's going right now. Like if we can help the rest of the community realize how easy it is to do that in their local region and nations and whatever it is, and we can help by providing this content. I'm working towards that independently, or as part of Gimbalabs. That's where I go with it right now. That's where my head's at. I don't know if I answered your question, James. I feel like I started rambling.
Just knowing that marketing, I mean, the marketing conversation is a lens that you want to be able to look through. That's a big deal. Yeah.
Well, it's one thing, but like how do we serve the D reps that don't have any delegation? It's going to be hard to go to Japan and talk to those people with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of ADA to give it to some D rep from Western Africa or to us. Why would they? Yuta is one of the most competent people in the Cardano community. I would trust him too.
Right.
But given the noise that the Trump administration is creating around crypto and the impact that that's going to have on not just the United States and the rest of the Western world, it's going to have an impact on the Southern Hemisphere, which, in my opinion, from my perspective, they're the ones that get the short shrift. Right. And I think that this kind of, just short, meaningful, moving content from people in the community, which is what Derek and Nadia produced in their film, right? It was talking to the delegates at the Constitutional Convention and sharing their experience in Cardano. And it was moving. There were unique things said because they're all unique individuals. And some of the stories were like, whoa, right? There was a fellow, I don't know who he is, and some European dude, and he's a therapist. And he has over the years realized that some of the people who are depressed, in a clinical, deep way, are justifiably depressed because in their situation and for where they live, they see no way to make a viable, positive contribution to the world around them. And because of his experience in Cardano, he has started to introduce that to these people with depression, and they have engaged in Cardano, and their depression has gone away. Right? Like Cardano as psychotherapy is like fucking amazing. That's a brilliant thing.
Hmm. And
And
it's the ability to connect with people and collaborate that is
exactly,
that's
it gives
the
them something to do.
yeah.
It gives
Yeah.
them something to do.
So
I mean, and that's not much difference than me,
yeah.
right? I
Well,
thought we were rapidly approaching the apocalypse, and then I thought, oh no, there is actually technology and people that you can work with to prevent disaster in the world.
yeah. Um, pushing pushing off just slightly the question of like what can Gimbalabs do, right? And for these other delegates, it's I'm thinking, Steve, about Playground, right? We had a proposal to maybe keep it going, but it really wasn't in line with the vision you had for what to keep doing. And then rewinding back to like where Playground really came from. The story I tell myself is Playground started as a place where we got together to talk about the tech, but also to talk about the implications of that tech. And what that meant is that we had these spaces where people who knew things from going deep into the tech could try to describe what they were understanding to people who hadn't gone as deep, and to have that really human-centered conversation, like what does this all mean, right? Like if we have this now, what are the implications of that? And I can't help wondering, can we give the same treatment in the spaces we have, or maybe this is what Playground becomes, or something to replace it. Can we give the same treatment to as many proposals as possible as come through the Cardano system, right? We might not have a large influence in terms of the voting power, but what if we did get a typical, a group like this together to assess a proposal, just like we're already doing with these smaller proposals in Notion for our little community. We can do the same thing. We can think of it as a consent process, but along the way, we can have those conversations. Hey, what would be the implications of this proposal? Advantages, disadvantages, have that little debate. A beauty of this space is that we don't all agree on every principle, which is really, really good, right? We agree on figuring stuff out together, but people have real differences, and that's really, really exciting. Um, do you think that could be a first step, like providing that model? And to your point about human connection being good for all of us and a lack of it expressing as depression and any number of other things that we see. I recognize the same thing, right? Like that chance to have a conversation that is happening on several different levels, right? Like the nuts and bolts of some tech, the higher level implications of something, the fluid motion back and forth between those two things over the course of a debate makes me feel more connected to people. And yeah, I absolutely feel better after having a debate like that. I don't know. Could that be the role the Gimbalabs DREP plays? I see Q's hand.
Using, I need to clarify. I'm not clear how you're connecting playground to that. What are you suggesting for that
Could
content?
in a playground atmosphere, could we talk about as many proposals as possible as come through the Cardano Treasury governance system, right? Or not just the Treasury, right? Like as many governance proposals as we can handle in, say, at most 90 minutes a week or 90 minutes every other week. Could we have a public space to talk through those and come to decisions about how the Gimbalabs DREP is going to vote on each one of them? Record those sessions, make them open spaces, have those conversations.
And use that as our public process for how Gimbalabs is going to vote?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
I forgot to mention all that. The timeline is, like today,
Mhm.
sometime, the approved constitution is going to be put up.
Mhm.
Monday, the net change limit from 300 to 350 governance action is going to be put up. And this at the same time, Monday, I think I don't, Quasar can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is they're breaking up the big budget from Intersect into 5 budgets, and that is going to be publicly released Monday for people to consider as we wait on the net change limit vote to happen. So that's the timeline of the upcoming things. So like I didn't see it this morning, that any notice that the Constitution thing was live, but that's what's coming up as far as voting goes.
Mhm.
There's a lot of talk about who knows how many unknown people are going to put up governance actions or info actions. I mean, that may
Can't wait.
happen, but I haven't seen
Cannot
any of that.
wait. Yeah. 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 That's like being one of the first to mint tokens, right? That's it's
Yeah, right.
historically significant to throw a proposal up there early.
Right. I kind of like that idea with playground.
So something to think about. But Q, what were you thinking
Yeah.
about?
You? So I was thinking about a couple of things. I love the idea of using Playground or any other venue to discuss the proposals. I mean, I think it might be worthwhile to validate or do some due diligence on them before they come through, or just take a look at the first ones that do, and then we'll refine the process. I feel like there's more to talk about regarding the governance system that we've installed in the Constitution, as opposed to the proposals at this point. I feel like it's we have to always be cognizant of the proof of stake protocol. That is the environment that we're in. That's what we're basing everything on, and it's not perfect. We have to identify some of the areas that deserve concern, and like the DREPs and what I posted in the forum. Should there be a cap, a saturation for DREPs? Right now, there's not. There's a lot of things that are in the Constitution or not in the Constitution that I think could have used a bunch of playgrounds. So I'm suggesting we look at it more than just more than the proposals, and maybe do a little session on the DREP body as a whole. but I'm all on board for all of it. Yeah, it'll be 6 proposals going live. Should be filed today. We were working 6 hours or 7 hours yesterday on the definitions, which yeah, per Cardano, who are they for? Are they enforceable? You know, so maintaining enthusiasm and optimism is quite important, not allowing oneself to go into existential reasoning or delusions. Thank you, therapist, whoever you were.
And I think, and thanks to you, yeah, I think that the DREP thing and then the whole governance from my perspective, just personally, I think that what James talked about, like the overall, and we can look at our primary driver for it, but he said it in a very specific way, this humanizing and sort of communal effort and in a trust network where we've all contributed together. So now like the conversations that we have are more meaningful because I can look through and see, I know Martin and Monique and I know everybody on this list and I have a relationship to them. Whereas in a lot of other communities, like I was in Project Catalyst and I knew like 3 people there at the town hall. And so that is a value. So be able to discuss things. So when Q gets up and talks, I know where Q is coming from. We have a relationship. And being able to sort of roll around ideas in that way, that's leveraging network power. That's the real power of Arrakis. It's not the oil on the ground. It's the people power. So I thought that was a really beautiful way to say it, and I would love to do this with all of these things that that face us, and not just Cardano, but I thought what Steve said about the sort of mental health angle that we can make meaning and provide ways to contribute into the world at large. Our driver is very open-ended, and I think it really fits. And this is an interesting and I think worthwhile pursuit. And I think it all came from our processes. Like we got Steve there, and we're having real conversation about this very large thing that happened with the hard fork, and it's happening right now. It's a very, very real and topical thing. Yeah.
One of my goals has always been to try to build like replicable systems, right? So like what we're doing here at Gimbalabs is actually very similar to what Catalyst Round Zero was like. It was just a small enough group of people that, like Newman described, like everybody knew everybody. Now Catalyst has just outgrown that. You can't know everybody who puts in a Catalyst proposal, right? And so for me, the goal is never to scale past that point, but really to just suggest a model that other people can take on. And I would love to see us do that. If whatever we do in forms of debates have to be packaged in a way that somebody else picks it up and forks it and does something similar eventually, right? And none of that is happening as fast as we want it to. And sometimes it happens in an indirect form, right? Like the idea of Dandelion has now been adopted by other infrastructure providers. By having Dandelion pushing that, right? It got that idea into the world, and if it's a good idea, then it's okay if somebody else takes the lead on doing it. So yeah, if we can just create that expectation that people are going to get together and build relationships, I believe that's really necessary. Like when I have the dread of looking at, say, global or national level politics, I know that I always feel better when I participate locally. And I think we need similar systems on Cardano. It's a global system. Where are people going to go to have a town hall debate?
Yep. And the reason why a town hall like is because it's the town, you know. If you try to have a national debate, which is possibly what Twitter is, we know that movie, we see how it ends.
You
You know,
know
it
what it feels like
becomes
in your bones to spend too much time on Twitter. It's
yeah, yeah,
not always a great feeling.
yeah. And I think that, I mean, to put a name on that, it feels dehumanized. And when hurt people hurt, right? It's sort of when you're dehumanized, you dehumanize. And and so I love that you use that word, because that's what, we remember that people are people, and that we don't agree, and it's great to have dynamic tension, and these are things that those buzzword governance models, S3 and the like, which get such a bad rap, but that's the thing that they do, and it is, it's a container for the uncomfortableness and remembering the humanness. Which is, to be honest, it's the only way, because eventually we're going to get down to it. Eventually we get to every, humanity. So I love this conversation, and I love that it was spurred by a proposal that went through our system to get Steve in a space that now we can have like real concrete talks about the DREP thing. And it becomes very clear, like, what do we do with our voting power, and how do we, adjust the knobs and control levers of this new system? Yeah, I'd love to have a connection and understand it personally, and I think that I can understand it, through discussions with these folks, with Q and Steve and Harsha and Martin and Andrew and Erez and all the people on this list who I know from, working with them and seeing them work through this community of practice. I'm feeling very, very good about the whole thing right now.
Yeah, it was
Steve,
pretty
I know you have an
interesting.
idea, but can I give you a lens? I'm curious about
Sure.
something, connecting everything this and in this conversation, but also back to, I think it is important to connect this back to what you were saying about marketing and everything we've talked about in between. But like, to me, understanding how to move forward and how I think about marketing are definitely intertwined. And the way I think about marketing is informed by my understanding of whether Cardano is more like the Apple computer being sold in that 1984 ad, or is it more like the internet, right, which is a new and different communications channel, but one that was never, right, like the internet itself was not marketed, or it was marketed in an amazing way, right, the way it got out to us, depending on how you want to tell the story. Or is Cardano more like electricity, right, like a public utility that now that it exists, people can do what they will with it, and they got to figure out how to use it. Which of those buckets do you think Cardano fits more into?
And for me, I think of it as a utility, and when I've been frustrated the last 4 years, it's been because the utility of Cardano was not apparent in utilitarian products, right? It's taken a long time to build all these tools out, and that's still happening. They're still not there for me to be able to go and start a business and put it on the blockchain and know that, be able to prove with an application to employees that, hey, you've got something here and it's building equity for you. And as long as you do a good job and you you work, you'll develop something that you didn't have the opportunity to have before. So there's that aspect, which is kind of technical, kind of like early days in the internet in the 90s, you know, like it was a real struggle just to get a browser that worked intuitively. There was a moment after we had this clarifying conversation with Jenny, you know, we're outside alone, and right next to the hotel where this event happened, there was a Celtic festival. And Jenny started talking about culture. And she said, you know, we have a real culture inside of Cardano, and it's not fucking Twitter, right? She spent years posting Cardano over coffee and hates it, right? In the sense that that's, you know, you have to do certain things, right? And she feels like that in all of the la of Catalyst and you know the build out of function in Cardano, nobody's focused on culture. And you know that really resonated with me, you know, because that's marketing. You know, if you share your culture, your marketing, you're saying to people, hey, this is a space where you can be yourself and you have incredible power within that, you know, like this, because it scales, you know, which is in line with how you've always seen it, James, is that this is replicatable. We can build up with this and we can build down with this, down to the level of local community. And you know, and that's just something I'm, you know, that appeals to me. I mean, I'm somebody who's hosted dozens of concerts, you know, and produced lots of things along those lines. And I can see that. I can see that happening. And I can see that there is a certain population that comes into Cardano like myself, right? They're not going to sit down and become a Plutus developer, nor do we need everybody to be a Plutus developer. We need people that can explain this and can represent it, you know, at different levels, and you know, be able to adapt to the people that they're talking to and speak to them at the level that they can understand. Um, and you know, that's where I understand the distaste and the worry that people have that the top 10 to 20 D reps can determine everything in Cardano. You know, it's kind of like how does the ADA spread around the world? By people buying and selling it, right? How do D reps spread around the world? By people buying and selling ADA and not wanting to delegate to a Japanese guy that they don't know. They want to delegate to somebody who's closer to home, or they will. You know, that's just my opinion, but I think it'll prove true over time. And so I mean, like I find it disturbing the lack of transparency that Intersect has displayed over the last year. You know, it's very disturbing to me. I don't know what they've been worried about. You know, they've been worried about the community, you know, yelling at them. Well, they fucking yell at them now, you know, so what's the difference? Why not be open and get yelled at, you know? Um, but I think that, you know, for Gimbalabs, the question is, how do we want to be involved beyond, you know, like we can do that. It's really growing on me, the idea to use Playground as a way for governance actions and info actions to be discussed. It's a different kind of shilling, you know, which got tiresome as long as it was Catalyst proposals. Um, I mean that's the truth, right? And I can imagine. I don't want an open sign up sheet. You know, like I'm tired of that. I want to be open in a face to face thing. I don't
Oh yeah, no, I would say that we wouldn't even be inviting the people who wrote the proposal, right? This needs to be a space to figure out
Discussing.
what we're going to do as a voter, right? Which
Okay.
and a multi-headed voter, which is really exciting,
Mm.
right? And like a lot of things we've done, we have a long history of building out the social structure first, and then going and starting to encode it on chain, right? The whole way we worked together in the earliest rounds of PPBL became Andamio. And if we do the same thing, we've already got a system here for how we go through proposals. We're looking at it on the screen. And if we apply these structures, but in an adapted way to every proposal that comes through the system, we're going to build technology that then facilitates people getting together that way. We understand the concept that you can have a multi-sig DREP. All right, let's just pretend we have that already from a community perspective, figure out what we need it to do, and then when there's dev time, we'll implement what we learn. Q's hand was up and then down.
Yeah, I'll pass on what I was going to say. I'll say it. Thank you.
So there's a lot of potential next steps. I want to honor time. We're going to try to, within the next 15 minutes, end everything else and finish the closeout report for the F12 proposal. If people still have thoughts about the DREP stuff or questions for Steve, just throw up a hand and we can keep this conversation going. But while people are formulating their thoughts, let's take another look at this list, because what I notice is that there's a few things that we can actually close out. In a few minutes, after Harsha submits this report, this F12 proposal will be done. That's amazing. The Which Spaces proposal is closed out. The Playground Season 4 is, let's just call it paused for now, okay? Because we know we're not working through that now. That just drops it to down here. This is something we're going to pick up. The funds are still there, and a few people have to get paid out. On that note, on Damio mainnet, we are in the final stages. There's just a couple of like fun details that we have to get from just an administration side before we press the button. But as soon as we do, we're going to be able to put all of these treasury amounts in on Damio, and we'll get people on board how to collect those. Any other proposals here that can be closed out? That one is, we talked about. This one's in progress, in progress. These are in progress. Sustain and maintain is underway. This one, this one, this one. Mix is the source for this guy right here. Oh, that's why he doesn't have an account here. That's okay. And this
You can close
one,
out the one.
this one needs to be paid. Let's leave it open just so we remember that. So pause and in progress, we'll know that we have to put those funds through. And then as soon as
Don't worry about forgetting it.
Oh, I mean, I know you won't let him, but you know, it's good to have it right here and just we'll check that off the list. So we got a couple of potential proposals here, right? 2025 sustaining and/or maintaining. That one was actually, I don't know what I meant by that. I'm going to put that back to the proposal stage and review it. But look, we have this placeholder for Gimbalabs DREP. And maybe following up from this conversation, Steve or anybody else who's interested can jump in and refine this proposal a little bit. How should we use this DREP? Because in full clarity, right? Like I hold the keys for that DREP right now. I registered them on the same machine that I use to keep the stake pool running. And so I have those keys. They're locked down. They can be shared anytime. And we can think about that, right? But like, at least for these early stages, I'm not going to place any votes without getting a decision from this group in one way or another. And I do think we have a good idea for maybe how to get together and talk about those decisions. So if you can trust me for the short term to only register an on-chain vote for something we've talked about, you'll notice that the Gimbalabs DREP didn't vote for the hard fork, just because we didn't have time to make a decision together. Similar thing here. Okay. So it is urgent if we do want to register our vote on any of these upcoming proposals to just figure out how are we going to come to that consensus. And it could be really nice. Maybe we do just maybe if nothing else, we set aside one of those upcoming Tuesdays to do this. At least, once those first few proposals are listed and we know there's a deadline for getting a vote in. Tavo, what's happening?
Two things. First, you moved this Andamio stuff somewhere. My question is, does it include some of the UI fixes, or I posted the summary in Andamio channel about bunch of errors, and Sebastian said that some of them are already in works. I'm just wondering from your side, have you looked at them, or does it cover some of it? Because I'm actually preparing next workshop session, so I was wondering if there is a word for me to look into Andamio next week and see if everything is all same or fixed.
Yeah, I can't promise that item by item, every single one of those items is resolved, but I do know that we've made a lot of progress and we're continuing to push changes as fast as we can. So if there's anything that is broken in a way that makes it unusable, just post another note about that, and we're moving through all those dev tasks as fast as we can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, you can expect a new session in week or two. I'm not
Cool.
quite sure the date. On the DREP note, is there a channel or a way where, or like a written output where you collect your vote, or this will be only on chain? Because in Swarm, to me, most of the, not most, but there are members here who are Swarm veterans, and we are also doing in Discord collecting information and voting. And if I won't expect you to join these channels, but if you have discussions somewhere and I have access to them and I'm allowed access to them, I would like to consider them when we do also our voting on Swarm side.
Yeah, that's great input. So we have a proposal here that's not yet ready for consent that's going to describe what we actually do, right? Everything you just described is a good idea. Potentially using playground time to talk about these things, that might be a good idea. But all of it takes work. No matter how simple it might sound, everything takes time. And that's why we have this proposal process. If you have an idea that requires somebody else to take the time to do something, that goes into a proposal. So Tavo, maybe you can reach out to Steve, who owns this one, and you guys could add some of your ideas to what the written result of any Gimbalabs DREP interactions could be. Because without a proposal, it doesn't happen. And this is something Gimbalabs shares with the Cardano blockchain, right? You're going to have to make a proposal to have something be voted on at the Cardano level, at the Gimbalabs level. The days of talking about what we should do are gone, right? The days of writing a proposal and getting it to consent, that is how we operate. And there's nothing that should or might happen that will happen without this process. Okay, so yeah, and even little things, right? I'm still trying to level up all of our capacity to recognize that even things that we call them little things, right, take time. And we all need to honor that for each other. So yeah, I would love to see any of those ideas in a proposal. Just remember that it only happens if somebody takes the initiative.
Is there a deadline? I could work on it on next week.
Yeah, no, there's no deadline, right? If there's a proposal on a Thursday, we will talk about it and we'll either consent on it or we'll give feedback and send you off to refine it, right? But no, if you want something to happen, the process is right here. There's a template when you press the blue new button, or you can just go into an existing proposal that's still in refinement. This one has a lot of loose bullet points. It's a very long way from being a viable proposal. It's not ready for consent yet. And it needs a champion. It needs somebody to take the initiative and turn it into a real outline of what we're going to do. So I hope that today's conversation has given people ideas. And if anybody's interested, go for it. Okay. You can see that a lot of people are engaged in a lot of different things. And if you see owners down here, you can assume that they're spending a lot of their time on a project that's already in progress. But we recognize that we want to do something with the DREP. And whatever that's going to be, that's going to have to work through this process as well.
TV, I'll be happy to talk to you about it. I would welcome there's like in every proposal, there's room for notes, you know, and just share.
For now, I
I
have
know
an
how you do
idea
it.
to simply describe how we work and what would be my personal requirements. And then I guess that could be a good starting document to see where it fits in the existing proposal, if it should turn into proposal.
That's good.
It's
Write it out or talk to me about it. I'm going to be looking at this proposal and seeing how I can refine it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we have some exciting times ahead there. Besides that, as we look at the other proposals here, I know that I have my name on a couple of ideas. I also know that looking at the people in this meeting, a lot of us are at capacity. So we may be entering a period where there's not too many brand new proposals, but there's just a lot of really good work in progress. And if that happens, that's okay, right? We're going to use this space on Thursdays to refine new proposals as people bring them forward. It would be wonderful to get this one through sometime in the next, whether it's next week or soon after. But then there's an awful lot of work to be done, and I know a lot of us are really excited to be doing it. So it's a neat spot to be where the pace of new proposals coming through is going to start to slow down a little bit. We do substantial work, we close these things out, and then we're going to start to see that cycle continue. I think that's going to be a really exciting moment when a lot of us start bringing our newest, fresh proposal after finishing one. Quasar, what do you say?
That sounds good, man. Is the Constitution and the budget the first proposals that'll be governance actions? Is that what you guys want to review in a makeshift playground when they come through, or
I think
wait till other?
if we have time to make a plan before the deadline for voting on those, yeah, let's go for it. Right. But it's for me, what's more important is the local process of saying, hey, if there's something we need to do and you need to ask somebody else of their time to get it done, you have to write a proposal. Remember, the way to short circuit proposals is just to do things. Anybody who can do something on their own doesn't have to write a proposal. You can just do it. So if anybody here wants to just schedule a meeting and invite people to show up, of course you're welcome to do that. But the reason we have a proposal process is usually to get things done. You need some funding or you need some of other people's time. And that's where proposals are absolutely essential. Okay.
Awesome. Rock and roll. Thank you.
Just so that everybody in here is clear, once a governance action or an info action is posted, that is live for voting, it runs for 6 epochs. So basically 30 days.
So
or until it meets threshold.
Right.
Does it have to run the whole? It doesn't have to run the whole. So it can be approved before we.
But we can loosely assume that we have a couple weeks to figure out what we're doing, right? A couple of proposals will go live over the next few days. And then we'll, if we approve this proposal next week or 2 weeks from now, we'll have time then to try a first session or whatever async method we define to figure out how we vote on things. All right. Well, cool. That was wonderful. Thank you for the time to have that conversation, Steve. To have the share out is really good too. We didn't really have a chance for open Q&A about this list. But if anytime, right? Let's just set the expectation that during these Thursday calls, We're going to review what's in progress the last Thursday of every month. But on every other day, if anybody ever does have questions about these, speak up. Okay. We really do want to have this town hall environment here and be able to go through what's here. The work is getting more substantial. There's more funding for it than there's ever been. So people should have questions about these, and I hope you'll bring them. Should we transition over, though, to closing out? So Newman posted these questions in the chat.
Yeah, those are at the bottom of the document. And so there's a couple of spaces I think for us to put things in. If Harsha's still around, what's your thought, Harsha? I see that there's that spot to do a key learning, and then there's this part down on the bottom.
Yeah, so the idea is just to like give your opinions, your feelings, and put them into the closeout, so that we can speak as a community instead of just one person.
Are you thinking of like a video, like a snippet of video, like a Loom or something, and then you put those in, or?
Yeah, I mean, if we can just like get by each of us like 1 or 2 sentences at most, I can just cut them, summarize them, and put them into key learnings as well.
Amazing. If Harsha, if we do this right now, and then I just chop off from the starting point of this conversation, send it over to you, do you want to edit it a little bit, or should
Yes.
we try to? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So nobody's trying to say perfect things. You can cut out some blank space in between. Wonderful. So, and then if anybody wants to put thoughts in the chat, but not be like on camera, that's fine too. Somebody will say it for you. But it'd be nice to have faces on this part if anybody does want to jump in and share. What keeps you around at Gimbalabs? What are your key learnings about this time, and what are you looking forward to? Give everybody a chance to think about that for a sec. And then maybe what can we do? Can I just clap? And then we'll say that's where it starts. Picture day at school. We have enough like screenshots of Newman. We can put, like just a picture over.
Find a flattering one of me, not here in the sauna.
Very nice. Nice. So Quasar, Scott, Steve, Eris, Harsha, everybody willing to say a few words? All right. And if anybody else wants to jump in, of course, please do. Harsha, do you want to speak first for the segment? And
Sure. Yeah. So the reason I hang out at Gimbalabs is because I don't think there's any other space in Cardano where I get to hang out with experienced people, learn from them, and also work with them. So this is such a unique opportunity, and that's why I'm always around Gimbalabs.
And leaving a little blank space in between makes it easier to chop things up later. So that's good. Anybody want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Scott.
All right. Hey, I'm at Gimbalabs. Had a hiatus, but even before that, I was at Gimbalabs, and currently today is for the community and the people I get to interact with and the varying opinions on different things around the community. And key learnings, I don't know, work as a team, be patient with other people, and really listen to what other people say. And then what am I looking forward to is a little bit more developer knowledge and maybe participating in more projects within Gimbalabs itself.
What keeps
Hey, it's Quasar.
Quasar,
Oh,
hey.
go ahead. Hey, like I'm Gimbalabs, not enough. I'd like to hear more. The engaging conversation, the process without structure, or the structure to get to a process, and the autonomy to propose to the community or do something yourself. It's challenging, yet it's also rewarding. It takes a little bit of twist. My learnings are that it's okay to ask questions and to follow through. And I'm looking forward to talking about some DREP stuff and a playground resurgence or something like that. Thanks.
Yeah, Monique, and then Tavo.
Hi. What keeps me at Gimbalabs, I really like the fact that I get to learn and contribute to the Cardano community. I really like working in a structured environment and everything is so organized. So that is something that's really appealing to me. I've professionally usually worked as an independent contributor, so working in a collaborative environment is really something that's different and I really enjoy, and it's a skill that I'm developing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how we kind of develop our role as DREPs at Cardano.
And Tavo.
I was a bit lucky one because I met many of these faces early at the time. So I keep coming back because I guess it's comfortable already to be here and know a bit where the ancient tension is. But one thing also what is very important here, you don't just talk here. We get to see progress. And that's what I also like about this network and coming back, like what is the next thing you're working on? How can I help? Is the way we can collaborate. I feel like I'm always a bit edging near, but never in Gimbalabs, but I'm always been welcomed and shared a lot of like good feedback has been shared when I bring up a challenge or a question. And that's also a reason to make sure this connection is stronger for like years to come. But more closer to what I'm expecting or like what looking forward from the Gimbalabs. I think this educational, and now I feel like maybe a couple of tech is also going to seep out because I see that a lot of the basic requirements that took first years to learn, like how do you set up like in development environments, how do you set up front ends, like basic Web 2 stuff. It took a while to learn, but now you see this like even a developer like team backing different projects now and having this cycle through. I think that's also that excites me in a sense, like what else is coming out of here, and if is there now opportunity when I see that hey there is something that needs to be built, and if I bring it here, will it be like solved? And yeah, like we are in a very like unstable like macro environment in sense of how these like grant funds and cryptocurrencies work. So the fact that the way we are learning to also collaborate with Azure is like more adaptable. So I feel like it's a right place to be and right people to hang with.
Yeah, I'd like to add something too. Um, I really enjoy the live coding sessions. I think that that's a really strong point for Gimbalabs, and it allows people to tune in and see what's going on under the hood, and we all learn together. And there aren't so many environments where that kind of opportunity is available. So I really appreciate that, and it's always fun learning with all of you. And getting to know you and the community here is great, and seeing people with entrepreneurial spirit and building and developing and seeing the progress being made is really cool. And just getting to understand Cardano better, and yeah, so thank you all.
So it took me a minute to realize why I hang out at Gimbalabs for years and years. I've basically, from my perspective, I've lived a solitary life, and the idea of collaboration was something I read about, and I always thought, oh, that sounds cool. I'm glad that happens for some people, and Gimbalabs has kind of given me a way to think that there's something idealistic, that there's a place where you can think about and do things based on idealistic reasons in a collaborative way, because I haven't known that before. It's just the way my life's gone. So I appreciate that.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, for me, it's hard to summarize, but I'll say, um, I'll say that this is the closeout for the Fund 12 Catalyst proposal for Gimbalabs, sustain and maintain. And we've talked a lot recently about what it means to sustain this place, right? It is our goal to get to a level of sustainability where people are really taken care of and can really focus on what they want to do? Or is the goal just to maintain, right? Just to make sure that we keep doing the things we've been doing and somehow getting by in that way. And I think that's a really good question for communities of practice to ask. And so I'm grateful for the chance that we've had to do that together. And I'm just also grateful for the fact that what we have here is a space where there is that level of uncertainty. Hey, are we working towards sustenance or maintenance right now? We're not really sure, but it's safe to do the next step. It's safe to keep going and keep this thing going along. And what I find when I spend time at Gimbalabs is that there's other people who are okay with, all of the most of life that happens in the gray areas, right? There's not an easy yes or a no. There's not an easy answer to many questions. There's not even an easy way to describe what a smart contract is, right? Or anything else that we might want to describe. But we create spaces to talk about it and live in that uncertainty. And I hope that we're doing that in a scalable way that, yeah, leads to the sustenance of this space, but also, like we were talking about earlier in the meeting, the chance for other groups to pick up these models and run with them and make them work for different sorts of communities. So thanks for getting us there, and thanks to the Catalyst community.
Thanks for founding Gimbalabs. I don't think I ever said that to you.
Yeah, I caught up with Roberto last week and we were like, wait a minute, how long have I known you for?
Yeah.
I have my own story from Rare Evo, similar to what you were describing, Steve. I got, and I wasn't really that excited. Like I don't look for opportunities to go to Las Vegas, and it was very much, it wasn't the developer event that would really light me up, right? Like the
Right.
Builder Fest just really filled my bucket. Rare drains it a little bit, but it was still nice to have a chance to catch up with people. And the first night, I had one of those moments where I was like, wait, where am I right? Like, am I at a high school reunion? Is this a college reunion? Like, where do I know all these people? Because I've known these people for a long time. Where are they all from? And it was really nice to bump into Kyle Solomon and be like, I haven't talked to you in 3 years. Let's pick it up wherever we left off.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's pretty neat that we've got the relationships, and thanks for calling that out because I wanna see more and more of that. I'm hoping to go to Vietnam for the Builder Fest so I can actually meet Hinson. That's
That's in April, right?
yeah, yeah.
There's another thing going on that I don't know why it's attractive to me in Japan. I'm wondering how closely, because it's also in April.
Mm.
No,
What is
I
that?
gotta look
The
them up.
annual members meeting?
It's got a name. It's got uh, I don't know. Mercy brought it up to me, and I was like, oh, um, I have to look it up. I'm not even sure who's doing it. I don't know if it's an intersect thing or what it
Okay.
is. But I'll let you know when I find out about it.
Cool, cool.
It would be
Newman, have a
nice
good day.
to,
Oh, go
I just
ahead.
want to say it would be nice to have some kind of frequent flyer program where you get paid in ADA or something
Yeah,
with all this traveling
yeah,
and everything.
right.
There was a guy who was working on that. Who was the guy we were talking to years ago about
Oh, was it like Rodrigo or
there?
some
Yeah,
or
like he was
some?
like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, yeah, frequent flyer programs are already tokenomics. We just have to learn everything we
yeah,
can from that." And
yeah.
that was funny. Harshi, you think you got enough?
Yes, I have enough. Like it depends on anyone if they want
Okay.
their ideas and voices to be heard. Yeah.
Um, And I haven't been to town hall in a little while just because I've been preserving every moment for development. But do they still do after town halls?
They do, yeah.
So like if it would be it would be nice to maybe present at one or like to have a space at one of those to, as new people are arriving. If there's an opportunity just to schedule one of those as you're submitting, I'd be happy to drop everything and join in one of those.
Yeah, yeah. Then I'll reserve a space. I'll check and reserve a space. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Good deal. Yep, a lot of people got to drop already. Thanks for going over time, everybody. Harsha, I'll hit you with this video. And if you're watching this and want to come hang out, check out gimbalabs.com/calendar. We meet for this open spaces call on Thursdays at 14:30. All right, everybody. Talk soon.
Thank you, guys.